Dr. Akiva Gamliel Belk, Dean of Jewish Studies at Noach Torah Institute, LLC. Welcome to Gematria Vayikra. We're in Parshat Behar. That's Leviticus chapter 25:1 through 26:2. And this is our textbook, Mysterious Signs of the Torah Revealed in Leviticus, and we're studying between pages 201 to 210. And our discussion is entitled Tefillin 570. Dear ones, when we read in Leviticus chapter 25, verse 10, we come to these words right here. Yovel hi tehiyeh lachem. And it shall be to you a jubilee. Now, when we're talking about jubilee, we're talking about that for 49 years we count. And then once we enter the 50th year, that is the year of Jubilee. And in the year of Jubilee, those that have debts, they're erased. Those that were bound in slavery are freed. And it's a rejoicing time. It's a wonderful time. And it's also quite interesting that during the Sefer Vayikra, during the book of Leviticus, that we're counting the Omer every year. And when we count the Omer, we're starting at the very, very lowest level, the 49th level of depression, anxiety, frustration, difficulty, slavery. This is where we were when God took us out of Egypt, out of Mitzrayim, and delivered us from slavery. And we began to climb and to climb and to climb. And then after 49 days of climbing, we were right at the foot of Har Sinai, where we would receive HaTorah, the mitzvot of HaTorah from our Creator. And on the 50th day, that's Shavuot. It's the 50th day. It's Pentecost. Okay? And so we see the parallel of counting the Omer when we were really down and out, and we had to start rising from the lowest level of degradation and the various poorest situations to the 50th level, up 49, 50, from way down there to way up here, thank God. And so that was Shavuot, and we're coming close to Shavuot here pretty soon. Now, the same parallel is with counting the 49 years. The 50th year is Jubilee. Now, the Gematria of Yovel hi tehiyeh lachem is 570. And that's also the Gematria of Tefillin, 570. We recognize that when we were young men, before the age of 13, we could not wear tefillin. But, thank God, when we reached our bar mitzvah day and we reached the age of 13, we could don tefillin for the first time in our life. Now, in certain situations, individuals did not don tefillin. Individuals that were not in a family that observed Torah, perhaps. Individuals that were drifted away from the observances of Torah. And so there are instances where individuals who turn 13, it's not special to them. It's not a major celebration to them. It's not this really incredible, fabulous time to them. You see, what we're doing here is we're saying that just as the 50th day of counting the Omer, 49 days, and reaching the 50th day, Shavuot, and it's so incredibly special And we're so thrilled. And we're on a spiritual Madrega, a very high spiritual level. Thank God. Baruch Hashem. Praise the Lord. And when we've gone 49 years to the 50th year, to Yovel, to the year of Jubilee, we're so excited because so many wonderful things happened that year. Thank God. And so that's how it's supposed to be for the young man that puts on tefillin. It's supposed to be like Shuvaot. It's supposed to be like Yovel. That's putting on the tefillin. We read that Torah says, place these words of mine upon your heart and upon your soul, and bind them as a sign upon your arm, and let them be tefillin between your eyes. Dear ones, when we talk about wearing tefillin, it's just not like you go into a shoe store and buy a pair of shoes and try them on. It's much different than that. In the home, where a young man is about to wear tefillin for the first time, there has to be this atmosphere. There must be this atmosphere. You see, we're told that God is faithful, and that because God is faithful, we can depend upon God to help us when we need help. But when we do things that are not right, we can also depend upon God to chastise us. So we recognize that God is faithful. And in a Jewish home, if the father's faithful, if the wife is faithful, if the mother's faithful, if the family's faithful, and if the walls of the home just are saturated with observance. You see, faithfulness is the children look at their father, the children look at their mother, to see if they're faithful to the observances that God has given us in the Torah. When did God give us the observances? On the 50th day. And that is compared to wearing tefillin. Tefillin is the crown that the Jewish man wears from the age of 13 going forward all his life, God willing, every day except Shabbat. Now, when the home is prepared correctly, when the children can see how lovingly and how observantly the father and the mother observe HaTorah, faithfully, dedicated, very serious about observing HaTorah, then this fills their life with the right kinds of thoughts, the right kinds of attitudes, the right kinds of instructions, without actually teaching the children anything, just by the parents' actions. Now, of course, we're required to teach our children. But when we live a faithful life to the Lord, to Hashem, that brings our children into an atmosphere that they're ready to put on tefillin. Now, every Gematria has your Yetzer Tov Gematria, your good Gematria, and your Yetzer Ra Gematria, the ones that challenge us. And so we recognize that when we put on tefillin, that there's the Yetzer Ra, the evil inclination, which is also the Gematria 570. And you notice that I did not add the letter Hey. Okay? The letter Hey. I didn't add that. Why didn't I add that? Well, you see, I don't think we should give an article that we reserve for God. The letter Hey represents an article. We shouldn't give that to the evil inclination. That's my way of seeing it. So the Gematria is 570. And so the evil inclination, when we understand the process of how God has created us, it's there to try us. It's there to test us. It's there to make sure that when our children are born, that we've been adequately prepared by being tested, that our home will be a faithful home to the Lord. And then we have Rasha. Rasha is evil. Evil person. Oh my. And so we recognize that here on the one hand we have the time of Jubilee, and we have the time of counting the Omer, the 50th day, Shavuot, the parallel, and we're in Tefillah. We also recognize that when we're trying to be faithful to God, there are those that are opposed to even acknowledging that God exists. There are those that are opposed to being faithful to God. So we recognize that in this Gematria 570, we have these struggles. But God has intended for us to be victorious, to be successful. And we should be successful if we observe HaTorah. The whole key is to observing HaTorah. If we were to go to Devarim, to Deuteronomy chapter 7, we could read in there how God has been faithful to us and how we need to be faithful to observing the mitzvot, the observances of HaTorah. Now there's observances for the people of Israel, and then there's observances for everyone else in the world. The observances are similar. The result is that we do recognize there is a God, and we try not to be a Rasha, and we try to overcome our evil inclination every time. We're not always successful, but we try. And so, dear ones, we recognize that in this Gematria 517, that God has given each of us a very important purpose in life. And that purpose begins with our great-great-grandparents, with our grandparents, with our parents, with us. That purpose is to be faithful to God. Whether we're being faithful as the people of Israel or being faithful as Noachites, our responsibility is to acknowledge there is a God and to be faithful to God, to observe the commands that God has given us. Thank you for joining with me.